Hello, and welcome to today's virtual event, Technical English Strategies to Improve Workplace and School Success. My name is Jennifer McLean, and I'm a Senior Product Manager in IEEE Educational Activities. IEEE is the world's largest technical professional organization dedicated to advancing technology for the benefit of humanity. Before we begin, please note a few housekeeping items. At the bottom of your screen are engagement tools that are resizable and movable, so feel free to move them around to make the most of your space and experience. Note that we recommend using a wired internet connection to access today's presentation and closing any programs or browser sessions running in the background that could cause technical issues. There is no dial-in number for attendees of this event, so please make sure your computer speakers or headset are turned on and the volume is up so that you can hear our presenters. You can find additional answers to some common technical issues in the orange question mark help tool at the bottom of your screen. If you have questions for today's presenters, you can submit them through the Q&A widget on your screen or click on the purple Q&A icon at the bottom of your screen, and we'll answer as many questions as time allows. If you click the green resources icon on the bottom of your screen, you'll find more information about today's event and future events. Finally, the on-demand link for today will be emailed to all registrants approximately 2 hours after we finish. If you would like to tweet about this event, please use the hashtag IEEELearn. Our virtual session today is Technical English, Strategies to Improve Workplace and School Success. In this virtual event, you will learn the importance of the English language proficiency in a global workforce, the unique English language requirements for technical professionals and students, and tips for how to improve technical English language skills. Attendees will also be introduced to a new program from IEEE entitled IEEE English for Technical Professionals, an online learning platform designed to provide non-native English speakers with a working knowledge of English techniques and vocabulary that are essential for working in today's technical workplace. Our presenters today are Traci Nathans-Kelly and Jennifer Fong. Traci Nathans-Kelly has taught online engineering and technical communication courses since 1997. She currently teaches at Cornell University's College of Engineering in the Engineering Communications program. Previously, she worked at the University of Wisconsin-Madison's College of Engineering in the Technical Communications program. She serves on the IEEE Educational Activities Board in the Continuing Education Division. Jennifer Fong is a former classroom teacher and instructional designer who now leads the education product sales and marketing teams at IEEE. Jennifer's team works with top technical experts from around the world to develop the IEEE e-learning library, which is a collection of hundreds of online courses designed to provide students and working professionals with peer-reviewed content on the latest technology and essential skills. At this time, I'd like to hand it over to Traci.
Thank you, everybody. And actually, Jennifer, you're going to take the poll, right?
I am. So hello, everybody. We are so excited that you are here with us today. We are really looking forward to this great session. And we would like to start by actually getting a moment to get to know you. So if you could just take a moment on your screen right now, you are going to see a poll. And we would like you to let us know, what is your current role? Are you an undergraduate student or a graduate student? Are you university faculty or a dean? Are you a working engineer or an engineering supervisor? If you can go ahead and give a click on your answer, that's going to help us make sure that the information that we shared with you today is of most value. So we'll give you one more second to go ahead and fill that out. And let's take a look at our results. And it looks like we have a pretty wide range of folks here today, Traci. We've got 8% are undergrads or 20% graduate students. We have some faculty, about 30%. We actually have 36% are working professionals, engineers, as well as some supervisors and deans. So a nice mix. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to our main speaker today, Traci Nathans-Kelly.
Now, I'm not sure if the slides are showing.
They are showing. You're good.
I'm getting an odd feedback. Thank you, everybody, for your patience here. It's really great to be here, and I wanted to really talk about some of the ways that technical communication is alive and present, obviously, for all of us. Now, I'm feeling a little bit off kilter because I can't see these first three slides. So, but what I wanted to bring out is, Jennifer, can you go ahead and take us to slide number 8, because I'm not able to forward the slides where I can see them.
Sure. So right now the slide is technical communication is both what subject matter experts do and a career path in itself. You should be able to see that in a live view.
Yeah, I can't. It's really interesting. It doesn't matter. I talk about this stuff all the time. So it's really, right, where you do, this is how we live, right, our lives. And so what I wanted to emphasize when we started off right here is that there is a category of a career path called technical communication and technical writer, and sometimes we see that. But also technical communication and engineering communication is, of course, what some people do as part of the product set that they do on the job. So like all of you who are working engineers, you certainly know this to be true. Right? You do your engineering, but then you also have to write about it and speak about it and present it to other folks. And so that's really what we have going on here, is that there's these two different paths that we really want to take care of. Now, what we also want to think about is the idea of, well, good heavens, look, our slides are everywhere. It's okay, we got this. And in the United States, for example, I know we have people from all over the globe today, but in the United States, the idea of the technical writer is actually in our U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. It's something that they track, and it's a fairly nice way to earn a living. The definition is very closely drawn here, right? Technical writers. But we know that when we do technical communication or engineering communication, that it's a much bigger playing field. And so technical communication involves so many aspects. It's a very large field, or umbrella if you prefer. And you can see it spans everything from training and e-learning to I showed a couple of examples here, being an engineer in mechanical, aerospace, whatever it might be. And so your column on the furthest right, if we work it backwards, right, your job as a mechanical engineer means that you have to then do engineering communication, and that means that you're also doing technical communication. So for people on the job, this graph kind of works from right to left. But technical communication covers, of course, project management, UI, UX, data visualization. So, of course, it's just exploding. It has always been a growth area. And at least in the United States, we also see this continuing to be a growth area. One thing I do want to emphasize is one of the main components that has really been emphasized, especially since the pandemic and so many people have to get a hold of their materials online, is the idea of accessibility. So technically speaking, in the United States in particular, if your project touches state, federal, or local dollars, all of your product should be fully accessible, and it should speak to the people using plain language that it is meant to design and to be designed for. And so we really do have to pay attention to issues of accessibility. And this is a new layer that's kind of a surprise to a lot of people. It's been in place for a long time, but the pandemic and the full ability for us to access our materials online has really emphasized how important accessibility is for our technical and engineering communication products. So those of you who do this for a living or teach this for a living, you understand this list completely. But it might be a surprise for some people who are just thinking about technical communication to begin with. So again, the genres are wide-ranging. And these are most of the written genres. Everything from proposals, right, to user guides. A lot of technical communication programs have like a writing user manuals class. I used to teach that one myself. But it also is internal documentation, like project management, and it's very much external documentation. YouTube videos on how to put together the thing, right? So this is all over the place. You can't live without it. This is what I'm getting out to. The other thing to pay attention to is all of the, let me go back for just a second. I forgot to say one note. These are the things that we can find by doing a targeted search. Somewhere they are indexed, somewhere they are keyworded, and we can get to them, or at least we can see that they exist, and then we can request them. There's a whole body of literature as well called gray literature. And these are the things that either aren't easily found, that are behind paywalls, that exist outside of the normal channels of retrievability. And if we look at this, this is a large part of what we might do every day, including presentations. I spend a lot of time coaching people on doing technical presentations, but also the internal documentation, project management, writing abstracts to go to a conference or some sort of meeting, internal workshop materials, right? So all of these, post-mortem notes, this is called gray literature. It's a really fascinating thing to think about because so much technical communication happens and is written about, documented in this place of gray literature that is not easily retrievable or retrievable at all. And so understanding that it exists and that maybe we need to find ways to better track it and retrieve it is a big part of what we can do too. So I want to shift here for just a moment. We're going to have a quick lesson in ancient Greek. There are three things that we have to pay attention to for all communication, but it has an interesting part in technical communication. And the first one is, and I'm simplifying these. The first one is ethos. It's the base word for words like ethics, sympathy, or just a little state of ethics for here. Sympathy and empathy are coming up. So this is the place of credibility. What is your standing in the field? What is it that you know? How can people come to trust you? So this is about the stance of the author or the subject matter expert. Pathos is where we get our sympathy and empathy core words. And this is your relationship to your audience. So what do they need from you? How can you get that to them in a way that's useful to them? What have been their past experiences? Are there any hard stops with them? Are they going to be resistant to the message or welcoming to the message? So this is where audience assessment, audience performance kind of plays a part. And the last one is where technical people love to live, in the logos. This is the logic, the data, the research. This is a larger category as well, but this is the part where we get to gather in the bits. And we use our logos combined with our ethos to create the right kind of message for our audience, and that's where the pathos plays in. And for a long time, technical writing, engineering writing, scientific writing only paid attention to the ethos and the logos. I am really important and smart, and I have something to tell, not even tell you, just tell, right? And so what we're really paying attention to in the last couple of decades is re-understanding or continuously understanding what it is our audience needs. So technical communication at its core is always user-centered. It is researched and grounded. That plays to that ethos. Your audience needs to be able to trust you, and the data that you've gathered or the perspectives, the recommendation that you put together, they have to be able to trust you. So you have to do your work, and it has to be solid. And the big one, the pathos, you have to understand your audience needs. And the audience, this is really tricky. It's not what you know that they need. It's that you have to be willing to understand what they need and apply what you know to that. And that's where there's often a misalignment, that we start with what we know and push it out instead of the reverse. So logos, this is where we have fun, right? We're precise, we're forthright, we gather our data, we play around with it, we turn it into something that is useful and that can support those other two needs, sitting with that ethos and pathos. There's also sort of mythology. And two of my favorites that I talk about a lot when I'm teaching, it doesn't matter if it's grad students or practicing engineers, that we always write in a formal third-person voice. That's not what happens at all. Depending on your field, depending on what you're doing, context, who you're writing for, the audience, for proposals and reports, we might write this in the first person, like the first person plural. We did this, we did that. Our team accomplished something. It might also be in the third person. And I would emphasize to try to use really the one or they construction instead of that universal he. It's really not a great idea anymore to use the universal male as a pronoun. Specs and standards and patents, they really do try to pull out any inference that people have actually been involved. It's a really unique genre looking at those. And so we do tend to do third person, but we don't even say they did this or they did this. Mostly it's written in the passive voice or an active voice that eliminates agency. User guides, online help, most of the time, that's going to be second person. You push this button, you click on this, right? Whether we use that or the word you or not, or we're giving commands. And consumer information, it can be any or all of those. And so that idea of voice is really interesting because it will change according to audience need. And it's part of the job of the technical communicator to figure out what the expectations are from the audience in order to craft this in the right way. Another one, and I work in a college of engineering, I have for 20 some odd years, is they love to talk about how we are objective. Like, no, your data is objective. But as soon as you frame it inside of a proposal or a recommendation report or even a technical article, because we are carbon-based life forms, we cannot be objective. We have purpose. We want to accomplish something. We want to persuade other people that we are credible, that the project is worth somebody's time. And as soon as we apply a frame to any objective data, we are no longer objective. We have purpose, okay? So we can't write objectively. We can write faithfully. We can get as close as we can, but it's really important to understand that, I like to give this example. If I'm writing up a lab report and I say that something started on fire, or it exploded, or it flamed, or it popped, or it glowed red, whatever my word choice there is, has a different connotation. All of those might have been the same exact event described by completely different people. Right? So the event itself, that was objective, but the reporting of it can shift the way that the information is received. So we can't write objectively, but we can try to get close, and we can absolutely be faithful to the product or the process or the information that we have in front of us. And that's the important point there. So I also like to say that technical writing or technical communication is not only about just writing and presenting, but a really big piece of this is what we do with our visuals. And this harkens back to the idea of accessibility too. We have to test our visuals so that they are available to everybody, that they work well with people who have color blindness issues, that we do full caption work for them because that is part of that gesture as well. And I could talk forever about caption work, but that's not what we're here for today. And so really do think about part of the technical writing, the technical communication, and the engineering versions of those two as incorporating visuals. Right? A picture says a picture's worth 1,000 words, as the old saying goes, and it definitely counts in these fields as well. I wanted to spend just a couple minutes because I did anticipate that we'd have a lot of engineers here. So often engineers think, well, you know, communication is just like not really part of my job. So I went out and grabbed some job ads 2 days ago. And you will see, I'll give a couple of quick examples. If we look at, and these are all for EE or computer science. And if we look at the job ads, sometimes, like here, they will be very forthright and say you need strong communication skills. Okay? It'll almost always be in the preferred or required skills. We'll see different versions of this show up in different ways. So if it's saying that we need to collaborate or work together or be on teams or there's leadership, all of that is a different way of saying communication, technical communication. Other times you'll see different wording, like analytical skills. I like this one. It says straight up presentation skills, right? And work individually and collaboratively as part of a team that we really want to say, see, that's communication. That's speaking, writing, listening, communicating well. Okay. So sometimes it's buried in the descriptions, but it's almost always there as part of an engineering team. As engineers, we really want to emphasize that the communication is not secondary to the job. So I was part of a big study a few years ago with the National Science Foundation, and depending on which body of practicing engineers that we asked, they said they spent anywhere from 10 to 30% of their workday doing actual engineering, right, at the bench or running data or testing engines in their labs. All kinds of things are happening. But what they realized once we asked them to track their hours is, again, depending on the job, depending on the week or the project, between 70 and 90% of their work was actually communication. So that means meetings, writing up the data, sharing the data, presentations, conferences, emailing the boss. Right? Once they realized that you can't do engineering without doing at the same time the communication of it. Those two things cannot exist apart from each other. And that's a really important thing. If you think about most of our engineers in that study, when they said, oh my gosh, 80% of my job is communicating. And I said, so basically Tuesday through Friday is just all communication. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's true. Right? They were shocked at once they added up their hours and what they were doing, what that meant in real time. To that end, we know that engineering takes place globally around the world. And interestingly, English has kind of become what I call the lingua franca of technical and scientific and engineering communication. Engineering, all of these technical jobs don't happen just in English, but a large portion of it does. So for example, if you look at patents, if they are first filed in China, right, so they'll be filed in Chinese, but then they will also have a world patent, and then that will happen in English. So if we look at the way that this has kind of happened, English, for better or for worse, has become the language that we use to communicate a lot of this technical information. And some of the groups that we work with that are very large, and you can look at my biography online, but I work with a lot of companies, from Boeing and Lockheed Martin and John Deere and Google and Sirius and stuff. English is what they use, and Englishes is what they use, right? So there's two main fields of English, the British and the American, but then of course we know that there are many Englishes that are functioning, high functioning, and get the job done as well. Jen, I'm going to turn this poll over to you because you know how to work the magic.
Absolutely. So, as you're talking about all of the use of English in today's workplace, also in today's classroom, engineering classroom, we're curious how often you need to use technical English. And, it's interesting. There's English, and then there's technical English and the way that you communicate in a technical work environment. So thinking about that for a moment, if you could just take a moment and answer our poll, how often do you personally need to use technical English in your role? And I know we have students, and I know we have leaders and working engineers, lots of different roles. So thinking about your own experience, do you never use it? Do you sometimes use it? Often or always? And we'll give you just one more minute to go ahead and answer your choice. And then we'll go ahead and see what we have. And very similar to what you were saying, Traci, it seems people are at least 20% are sometimes, and then it's either often or always, so quite a lot of English here.
Yeah, yeah. And it's also about not only English, but just technical communication in whatever first language you might have, right? Like it's just getting the job done is technical communication, whether it's English-based or not. And again, when you realize the whole phone calls, emails, text messages, right? And then all the other formal things that we think of, it really does take up most of our days, especially now that we're mostly online, even more so maybe for some people. We've got some really great questions coming in the Q&A, so we'll be coming back to those in just a little bit. So one of the things that we wanted to bring up is that these are basic skills, right? Being able to work and understand technical or engineering communication as part of the job, as valid as getting data or collecting the pieces or whatever it might be. The communication of it is part of the job. It's not that thing that you do at the very end, right? It has to be an embedded part of your workflow, and you really have to get at it as quickly as you can. Another interesting piece that technical communicators in particular, and some engineering or science people have to think about, is the idea of writing technical information in a way where it is easily translated. And this is it's very important. For some companies, it will save them a lot of money. I mentioned Boeing earlier. They started many years ago the Boeing grammar checker, and it has since morphed into a standard because all of their words, all of their things have to be translatable to any place that an aircraft might land around the globe. Because the technicians on the ground, no matter what language they have to be able to fix the plane. And so they really concentrated on how to translate English, which was how the documentation was written to begin with, into however many languages that they needed. So they controlled the language. And the field of controlled language, plain English, plain language, it's a really fascinating area. And a lot of folks go into localization and translation for everything from aircraft to video games. It's really, really quite interesting. And so as those of us who work with IEEE quite a bit, we came to realize a good few years ago that in 2010, we needed a course for English for engineers. And so that launched in 2010. And it has had wide use. So many people have been able to take quite a bit away from that particular course. And it's really quite an amazing thing for people who are feeling a little uncomfortable about their ability to work in English because they kind of have to in some regards, right? So we try to help with that. And in the past 2 years, so much has happened in terms of e-learning. So we try to be now more immersive and more interactive. That's a big part of it. And even use gamification pedagogy in some cases. So what has happened is we developed a new course, and I was lucky enough to be part of the team here. And it's now, this newer version is called English for Technical Professionals. The other version is still available as well. And we really are trying to aim at helping folks who need technical communication in English feel a little bit more comfortable in the tasks that they have to do. Will they be perfect when they stop doing this course? No. it's a lifelong learning adventure, right? I learn new things every day myself. And so that's the idea behind this course. And we have 14 different modules that cover everything from commerce to how to talk to your boss, right? So we have a wide range of topics that are covered. And in each lesson, like for lesson 2 that you can see here, inside each lesson, there are 4 discrete modules: writing, listening, speaking, and reading. And so you'll work your way through each of those. There are themes inside of it and everything else. Here's like the opening screen for the course. So we really do try to pay attention to people from around the world and what their needs are. In the course, because of what we have available to us, we are able to kind of create a situation where we watch 2 of our favorite characters work for a company we invented called Logrify. And so it is deeply set in engineering context. Like I said before, there are 14 lessons, and inside each lesson there are 4 modules. Each of those modules have exercises and assessments, and at the end there's a final test, and you can earn certificates along the way. Now, some of the features are really fun. We really pushed the envelope on how much we could accomplish. So these work contexts, so first day of work, getting assigned things by your boss, interacting over the phone, summarizing work, how do I write this proposal, how do I do this community outreach, all kinds of different situations are brought up inside the course itself. When we do tests or quizzes or assessments, we use a variety of ways, sorting and reading and reacting, and so we really try to use the technology to the fullest benefit so that there's some interaction there and it's not just an information push. Like I mentioned quickly before, these assessments happen at the module level and at the lesson level, which is the next one up. And then at the end, you earn a certificate when you complete the lessons at the very, very end. And you'll get that feedback along the way immediately. You don't have to wait for that feedback. We're going to show you here a little clip of how the class or how it looks live. And so this is it already playing?
Yes.
Great. Oh, and so we can see the opener there, and then this is a boss. This is Sarah Risby, and she gives us certain tasks. And here's a moment where we can see like some of the animation in play. So we spend a good amount of time using autonomous vehicles as a context for the different kinds of engineering work that we're doing. So we really try to ground this in engineering experience. You don't have to be an expert in autonomous vehicles. We listen to dialogues between different people in the workplace, and so there's a very strong listening and speaking component also inside of these courses, which is really great. This is unusual for online courses when you don't have a live instructor. So again, this is completely housed inside the course itself. There are bits, as you can see here, about very, very tightly drawn issues of sentence level, verbs, so on and so forth. Okay? So we have things that you read and parts that you respond to. And see, we're highlighting here part of a sentence that we kind of want to deconstruct and talk about, like how does this work in technical communication? And we work everybody through it. Here's an example of one of these sorting quizzes that we have. So when I put this together, I did a few right. So you'll see me get a few of them right here. So it will pop into place if it's correct and turn green. And then if I get one wrong, oh, no, it goes back. Okay, so you get that immediate tactile kind of feedback. There are readings inside of the course because we do have reading component, and there are PDFs available, as you can see here, to download. The quizzes will show up once you work your way through each module, and we celebrate when you do a good job at the very end. I'm going to let Jennifer take over here for a few minutes.
Okay, thank you, Traci. And I think what's really interesting about the course is that a lot of what you shared earlier today, just in terms of how important technical communication is and how many different ways that you need to use that as an engineer, technical professional, even an engineering student. There's so many different ways that we are communicating. And one of the things that impressed me so much about this course is how many different scenarios and different communication strategies are covered in the course. So it's pretty exciting. I did just want to share that the English for Technical Professionals course is available both for individuals to purchase on their own. It can also be purchased by institutions. So, for example, a company or an academic institution can purchase a license for all of the users within that institution. So it is available for individuals on the IEEE Learning Network, and it is also available via IEEE Explorer. Your institution may already have access to IEEE Explorer with our journals and conferences and standards, and this program is available there as well. And we do have, and this will be available afterwards to you as well in the recording, if you are interested in either organizational access or for personal purchase, there definitely are links right here where you can take advantage and learn more about this program. And so with that, I think it is time for questions. So we are going to call back our wonderful Jennifer McLean. Hi, Jennifer. I think you are going to field questions and let us know what people have asked. I will remind everybody there is a Q&A tool, and if you have additional questions for Traci, please go ahead and take advantage of that right now, and we will get to as many questions as we can.
Yes, super. Thank you very much, Jen and Traci. And just a reminder to everybody online, this is being recorded, and we're going to send out a link via email to each of you so you can access the session on demand, and you'll be able to see the slides there as well. We have lots of different questions, and I'll get us started. One of them is, in a multinational company with multinational employees, how perfect English is required? How perfect is the English required?
As long as the job can get done, I say you're good to go. And that's for daily moment-to-moment activities. If that company has to create documentation for a client, or maybe they're seeking a patent or something along those lines, right? A little bit more formal than just emails back and forth with partners or whatever, then it should be as close to, there's no such thing as perfect, right? It has to be as strong as possible. And the reason that's important is because if something is mistranslated or not phrased correctly, depending on what the subject matter is, it could introduce issues of safety. It could introduce issues of, it could open you up to legal action, right, if something doesn't work as it says that it's going to work. And so that's really a powerful place to have someone with some pretty good English fluency, either in-house or you hire them. And that's why I was talking about the translation and localization, that you're not feeling comfortable and you really do want to avoid opening up the company to issues that are legal or otherwise, right, things we really don't want to deal with, then I would say get yourself a really good technical translation and localization firm, and there are many of them, and have them work through this. So it can't be done on the fly, right? They do need time to understand your business pursuit, understand the vocabulary, so you build a relationship with these translation and localization people. Now, if you have fluent English speakers in-house, so maybe English is their second, third, or fourth language, and they're feeling very strong, that might do the trick. But remember, to give them a little bit of break on their workflow, because it's hard work to translate something out of one language into another, especially for any sort of technical effort. So I hope that helps a little bit.
Thank you. Thank you, Traci. Next question, what is the best way or method to learn technical English communications for non-English speakers?
You do like I do. You read articles every day. It's really difficult. Of course, the two courses that are offered through IEEE are some really good starts because you have instructors who are trained in helping people move through some of these issues. So I'll just use the one that I recently helped, this English for Technical Professionals. The other co-author is Susan Matson, and she's an English as a second language professional. It's what she does. It's what her training is in. And so we really had a nice eye for not only the technical content, but what are the common issues that folks run into, not only just working in English, but doing technical work in English. So take English, the second language course, English as a foreign language courses, just keep at it. I read every day to learn new vocabulary, to find out what's happening around the world, because new words have to be invented all the time to figure out what it is we're doing. Everything is so new and moving so fast. We just have to keep reading. And so it has to be part of your pattern of personal professional development, to just grab an article, read something in a newspaper, just to keep up with what is happening in these technical fields. And as you read and as you think, it will stick in your brain. Does it take forever to be really fluent technically? Yes. And like I say, I'm my own best example. I learn every single day how to, I mean, let me give some examples. When I was working with practicing engineering professionals, and I do a lot, I had to learn all of the language and all of the military words and structures and the ways of communicating, all those different genres, to help somebody write up a manual on how to decommission a nuclear submarine. Right? Like, what does that's crazy. And then I had to learn how to deal with Python as a coding language, so you've got to read up on that. And so you will never have a hard stop. It's a continuous, and I would say, this is why I'm in the field I'm in, it's a continuous and joyous experience to just keep learning. None of us are perfect. Even those of us who teach it, none of us are perfect about this, but it's in the act of trying to become better that we're able to help others around us get a little bit better themselves.
Thank you, Traci. There's a couple questions related to third person and first person and passive tense. One of them says, in Asian universities, we are always told that technical writing should be in the third person and in passive. Is it a North American way of writing in first person with an active voice?
This is a great question. I knew it would come up. I'm glad. So every piece of technical writing, as we were talking about at the beginning, is context and audience driven. So if you are writing, if you're a Ph.D. student, and if your university and your committee who is guiding you towards completion of a Ph.D. says it must be in third person, right, that it must be mostly written in passive, by gosh, do it. Right? You need to get through that moment. And that is your context, that is your audience, and you play by their rules. I would also advise, look at other dissertations or projects that have come in. Because while your committee or the people around you might be saying that this is the rule, when you look at the actual written artifacts, that may not be the truth. If you're doing your PhD, you're probably doing it alone. But if you're working in a lab and you're writing up articles or findings, things like this, conference papers, you will often find third person in there. Our team determined. We hypothesized, right? So there is no crime in admitting or showing there were actual people in the room doing the work. What you don't want to do is say, we did this, we did this, we did this for every single sentence, because then you start to sound like a little kid, right? So we want to use those moments where you say, we, given the body of knowledge and the project that we had in front of us, our team hypothesized this. So that people understand that you're pulling on your expertise as a team, as a solid, lab research group, to come up with a hypothesis that you then follow through on and test it. And we might not see our team, or we did this again, until the end, where we have conclusions and discussions. If you're writing up an article and you're talking about your methods section, and if it's a team, you might see language like, we attach the coaxial cable using this, and this. But again, the idea is restraint. We don't want to start every sentence with we or I or our. So we want to use it carefully, and we want to use that idea of a strongly based research team doing the work strategically. So not every sentence, but once in a while, probably okay. But again, understand your audience and what's acceptable. Look at other similar write-ups doing, the same kind of projects that you are, and you can pretty well determine, okay, this particular audience only wants third person, or what I call no person, where apparently nobody is around doing anything, and they only use passive construction. They never use active verbs. And that can be a little confusing for writers sometimes. But the disappearance of people is a particular genre construct in the scientific and technical fields. Is it the rule? No, it is not. But it is a rule given the ecosphere of many different traditions in writing up technical information. So I haven't solved your problem because there is no one answer. But the answer is you have to find out what's best in your context and follow suit.
Thanks,
Okay,
Traci.
Jen, what else?
Just we had a couple more. If I want to design a suitable ESP curriculum for software engineering students, what are the most important elements that should be included in the syllabus?
Well, this is like a year-long conversation, and I would welcome doing that. Actually, it's really kind of, I'm looking at the question here over here for software engineering students. So I work a lot with our computer science program here at Cornell University, and in fact, I'm a co-instructor for the games design course. So I spent a lot of time looking at code and the linguistics and practices of technical communication, even inside code, like what verb tense do we use to do get commands. What we try to emphasize in that program is the idea of using technical communication as a way to move an idea forward. And instead of just always being a retrospective, of documenting things that we have done, which has to be done, right? That has to be part of what you do. Also use your communication to move that software engineering team forward. So what are we doing in this 2-week sprint? Who's in charge of what? How are we communicating that those tasks got done or did not get done? How do we write our command code? What does clean code look like? What are our common agreements about the way that we structure our coding language? There's a lot to work with in there. So if they are working in teams, I would say start with a deep conversation about how teams communicate with each other. And I'd be happy to, if contact each other offline, recommend some books about doing that sort of work as well. So software engineers almost never work in isolation. So really that team collaboration part is a fundamental piece that I think often gets forgotten. Project management and all those other things I mentioned, the writing of those specific kinds of clean code and coming to an agreement as to what the actual product looks like, right? So what's our end goal, and really dealing with scope creep when it comes to software engineering, not letting the project grow, and that's a communication thing, right? We have to have a hard stop, and so our scope is this and only this. Yeah, there's a lot to discuss there. Great. I'm looking at the list of questions over here too. Jennifer, which one do you want me to talk about next?
Is it possible to organize such courses for technical English teachers from a polytechnical university?
Probably. I would want to think about that. Yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of this is done if those instructors do go through like a technical communication degree. To my knowledge, there is not an engineering communication degree in the United States, but there are plenty of technical communication ones, and some of them are even online, like a whole, master's degrees and so forth that I would recommend. Yeah, so again, I would be happy to contact people offline and let me think about it a little bit, right, and get back to you. I think there's a really great question from Terry Smith. Can we talk about that one?
Sure.
Do you want to go ahead and read?
Oh, sure, I will do it. Sure. I tutor ESL for advanced graduate students. I've been asked many questions about the issue of whether traditionally correct English is actually a racist development. I assist these folks in writing technical papers where editors will expect, quote, correct English. How should this be explained to them?
The reason I wanted to highlight an answer on this is this semester I'm teaching a class, again, that I haven't taught in a long time, called Social Justice and Engineering, Communication at the Intersection of Purpose, and we were talking about this exactly. So formal English, whether it's American English or British English, is definitely, well, it has rules, right? And to make other people follow that exact set of rules has a lot of presumptions. It has a lot of presumptions in class, access to education, opportunity, down to what neighborhood you grew up in. There's a lot of interesting items about, they tend to pick on the British more. British English as being an artifact, a leftover, and a really commanding part of the colonial presence around the world. And so there are also, and I like exploring this a lot, there are also things inside of technical communication that people will say are objective, again, which are not. So going back to CS, there are master files and slave files, right? So is that technical communication racist? You bet it is. So what do we do instead? People are like, oh, we can't rename things. Well, primary and secondary is a pretty benign translation of those words. There are places around the world where saying things like using a male component and a female component are completely inappropriate, right? We don't talk about people's privates, and saying something is a male component or a female component is certainly doing that. So instead we think about this, well, what can we do instead? Tab and sleeve components might be the answer. So I would very much agree, and again, please contact me offline, that this is an issue that needs to be addressed, because a lot of the categories and structures of language definitely have some baggage with them that it's best just to look at and answer and kind of find our own way as we think through the product it is. This also goes back to the question about Ph.D. language, and it must be third person, and it must be like passive voice. That is a construct. That is a tradition coming out of certain assumptions about who gets to speak English, in what ways, and is it objective or not, or are we just playing at being objective? So I love this question. There's all kinds of very interesting work being done right now, and I'd be glad to recommend some books to anybody who wants, or articles.
Great. Thank you, Traci. We have a couple questions related to the IEEE for Technical Professionals course program. If our university already subscribed to IEEE Explore, is the course free of charge for faculty members? I guess this is for you, Jen.
Yeah, I can take this one. This course would be included. This is a separate subscription. It can be accessed through IEEE Explore. So if you are interested in having this available for your subscription, what you would need to do is talk to the person that's in charge of that subscription. It's often your engineering librarian. That's a good place to start anyway. And if you can reach out to them, they can connect with their account manager, and it's pretty easy to just add this onto the subscription.
Terrific. And we're running out of time. We have time for a couple questions. I'll combine these. How can this program be used in a corporate setting and also in an academic setting? I don't know if...
So, Traci, would you like to take that, or would you like me to?
You can go ahead, and then I'll follow up.
Okay. Okay, perfect. So I will start with corporate setting. You know, we have had groups that have, especially multinational companies that have purchased this, because when you do the subscription with IEEE, it can be available for the entire location. So what you can do then is make it available to anyone who needs extra help, either who personally feels it or is on a personal development plan and needs to improve their English technical communication skills. It would be available to anybody who needs it within the organization. It can also be used for new hires. So if students are coming out of engineering school, maybe coming from overseas, need a little extra help. I actually really like, Traci was showing sort of that first module. It really starts you from first day on the job, and you know how to go through your new employee manual and all of those things. So it's a really good resource for new hires. And then at the academic level, you know, we have some schools right now that are using it for students that are getting ready to go into more higher level technical classes, graduate education classes, who are starting and just might need a little bit of extra practice with English before going into those classes, especially now when they might be remote. It can be even harder to keep up with certain language. And so having students have this foundation before entering those classes has been very valuable. And Traci, I'll hand it over to you for anything that I missed.
Well, that was beautiful. No, I think that the course that we have is meant to be a shoring up, right? A help. In no way will any of us be perfect by finishing the course, but we will feel a little bit better about the actions that we are taking, and then we'll have some strategies. And that's really the important thing, is knowing how to get to a problem, unpack it, and kind of go at it, which is really what technical people in engineering are good at to begin with. And so that's the way that it can really support work, whether corporate or still in school. I see it's getting near the top of the hour, so I'll take it to Jennifer.
It is. It is. And we've got just a couple of questions left, and we've run out of time, but we're happy to get in touch directly with those folks who submitted them and provide an answer back to you. So I'd like to thank so much Traci and Jennifer for their time today. And as noted earlier, the on-demand link for today's event will be emailed to everyone in approximately 2 hours. And before you leave, please don't forget to complete our feedback survey via the survey tool at the bottom of your screen. And please join us for our next event, which is an IEEE virtual tech talk on IEEE 802 networking standards on the topic of WLAN sensing, which is starting on Wednesday, November 4th at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time. Thank you very much to everybody, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks.